any week. We're trying.
Yes.
That is Matt. That is Steve. I am Jerry. And here we go again, boys. We are coming at this one blind. Each one of us are supposed to have come up with what we are going to talk about. We're supposed to have then teams chatted that, so everybody had an idea of what we're going to talk about. That was a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. Perhaps we've done it half of the time. And this would be one of the times that we haven't done it. But I always have things to talk about. In particular, I don't know if y'all have played around yet with Grok 4.2, the latest release. Have y'all messed with that?
Not the new one.
Yeah, not the newest one.
It is it's pretty good. It's pretty fantastic. Let me share my screen here and let me show y'all what it does. But the thing in particular that I find, number one, I find it just cool from a technology perspective. I just find it cool. And so I love looking at this. But two, the detail that it gets is so much cooler when you, or so much more thorough, because when you use the, the research side, rather than get a quick answer, you want it to go do deep research. It literally will put multiple agents to work on it. You got to watch this real close. If I go in here and I say, what is the value of a house in Clackamas, Oregon on average for 3,000 square feet, more than 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. So I'm just going to ask that question, right? So we're going to jump in here. We're going to hit here, and we're going to tell it to think harder. Now watch the agents argue with each other. There's 4 agents right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're going back and forth, and then you can see them go, oh, I grabbed this. I'm estimating this. I think this. I wrote this up. What do you guys think this looks like?
That's crazy.
You see that? So each one of the 4 agents, it'll go up to 5 agents, and you can see them. They'll start talking back and forth, telling them what each one's do. I found that this is the reality. No, I looked it up over here and I found this. I went out and found the Clackamas County for this, and it adds it in, and then they'll come up and give me an answer. So right here, you can see them doing different searches at the same time and then talking about it. I probably asked him to do a search. I was hoping for something a little bit quicker, but here we go. There's the agent 3. The query is about average. Agent 1, key market data. Agent 3, for the valuation, recommend using Clackamas County 309 square foot. They're having the conversation. Agent 1, utility specifics for Odyssey Hills. Now it's talking about my subdivision, right? So it's reached out and found my subdivision. Agent 2, the query is asking average house value. They're going back and forth, and now it gives me the information.
That's insane.
Dude.
So does all AI have those agents that I thought it was just like a singular thing? You put it in and one big brain figures it out. So
that's where, I mean, you can create your own agents, but Grok has made it as a default for their 4.2, which is still in the beta test. But I have found, as much as I use AI, I have found that this 4.2, as Grok usually is with every one of its updates, is usually significantly better. And in this case, it is. The thing about, I flip-flop back over to ChatGPT for a while, because ChatGPT seems to write more reasonably. It doesn't get out into the weeds a little bit. I have trouble controlling Grok. I'm probably going to get made fun of for this. Controlling it, meaning it always wants to run away and give me more information than I want, even though I tell it not to. I tell it to be specific. The something I haven't tested here yet, though, is that, like right here, I'm in a project a management project for my development. I just asked a question brand new and went out and did the research for me. If I were to ask it a question here, like how many people are they currently in Zimbabwe, it would try to relate it back to the development or the question that I asked. ChatGPT understands pretty well, so does Gemini, that, oh, this is a completely different question. It has nothing to do. Why would this person, Steve, if you and I were having a conversation and you were like, I think Ty Cobb was the greatest hitter in all of baseball, I would go, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. But how deep do you think that swimming pool is? You wouldn't say, I think it's probably 6 feet, but Ty Cobb was only 5'9". Right? You wouldn't say that. It will grok, at least before this. I haven't tested it yet. This is brand new, the 4.2 version. I haven't tested it, but the old grok was not good at that. ChatGPT would just tell me the answer to the question I asked it. And then if I went back to talking about Ty Cobb again in baseball, it would just go right back to baseball. So I don't know if so that got frustrating for me, because if you would say, like, I'm doing in this case, I'm doing development research, and I have a question, though, that's separate from the development research. But let's say I own a house on that development, and now I want to sell that house on that development, and I want to figure out what to price the house on that development for specifically, and it's a very specific house. It's always going to try to tie it back into the development, rather than just answer the question that I asked specifically. And so I have instructions in it to tell it not to do that, but it's always ran away from me a little bit, a lot more than ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT, because I think it's too woke, and it censors what we say, and there's things that it doesn't want to have a conversation about. So I don't like that. Grok doesn't do that. This Grok 4.2, I'm hopeful, cleans some of that up. But just from I was born in 1969 perspective, and I'm watching 4 and 5 agents have these conversations, and then you can see where all of the data is collected, and then they go out, and the agent's just like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to here's the information on Clackamas County, and agent number 2 says, here's this, and agent number 4 earlier is like, here, I wrote this up as an example, and agent number 2 comes in and says, no, I rewrote it, I think this is more what the user's asking for. It's just, I don't know. It's just cool. It's just other level. I've been using, as y'all know, I've been using AI since it came out. I was one of a very, very early original users of the beta ChatGPT. I think that was in 22 now. So it's been a long time. And these improvements just continue to get cooler and cooler every time. Sometimes they improve them. The latest Gemini improvement was huge. It was way behind. It was unusable, going back a year and a half ago when they asked for what did a Roman centurion look like, and it was a black woman. Gemini suffered from that very early on. Santa Claus was black and everybody was a woman, and so it had those issues with it. But the latest update of Gemini is way, way better. It's fantastic. But there have been, like, the latest update of ChatGPT, I didn't notice a difference. I didn't see it getting any better. So there have been times that they've improved it, and it just hasn't had any improvement, or hasn't had any substantive that I've seen. But these latest ones, the last 2 from Grok, have been extraordinary. And Gemini in particular is really cool because I can do it inside of the search engine for Google. So if I have a question, without it stacking up, and then I got to clear up my history, or if I ask another question in ChatGPT or in Grok, it's another line, and I got to remember to delete it. Otherwise, I get too much crap. It's nice going in and just doing a search. And again, I may be lazy and I just don't like deleting it. But in Google, I can just go do a search. So all of my searches in Google, I don't know about y'all, are all in AI. So I don't search Google anymore. I can't tell you the last time I did that. I used the Google AI to do the search.
Yeah, I'm using it in Docs and in my emails. What I like now is that with the Gmail, it'll give me a response based on it. Even if I've had like 5, 6, 8 correspondence back and forth, it'll still compile it and give a really professional response. All I have to do is hit a little prompt there, and it gives me a suggestion. And I'm like, okay, that works. And it saves me so much time responding, because usually it's just follow-up type stuff. It's not like really have to thought out. It's just a courtesy response. And it's nice that it's very professional sounding and encapsulates other things we talked about that I actually forgot, because a few times in the beginning, I'd open up all the email, the thread, and I was like, oh, that has that. Oh, that's right. We did talk about that. So it really makes me sound like Johnny on the spot. Like, okay, yeah, we get this. And you mentioned earlier this and this and this. So we'll be sure to follow up here and here and here. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, that on the flip side of that, I use Outlook. I think that for myself, I think Gmail is a piece of garbage. I can't believe Google even allows that to be out there. And so I like Outlook a lot more, but Outlook's AI sucks. and it's not nearly as intuitive as when you use Gmail. So I agree with you on that. I wish Microsoft would get their act together and make that thing better, but at this point, we're not there yet.
I wish iPhones, and I know the iPhone would integrate, because I ran into this last night heading to pool, tried to talk, and you have to do through Siri, and I tried to get it through there. I need to learn how to, but I wish I could just talk to whatever was on the phone and pick an AI to talk to without having to open an add up. With Siri, you can do it, but it's very basic, really designed for just searching within the iPhone and its app. So it makes it very good for that. But it'd be nice if it was integrated into it. And the funny thing, even though I'm doing stuff through Google, even when I asked them about Gemini, it used ChatGPT to look up the information about that, even though I have them all loaded on my phone. So I wish there was a way to integrate it so I could talk to the phone. Like you could talk to Siri, you talk to Alexa. You don't have to like open the program or open the app up. You just talk to it. And I wish it could do that for that. Maybe it can, and I just don't know. I'd like to find out, because I was having that last night, having a little conversation heading to pool last night and ran into that same thing. And Siri's dumb. But Siri's, I say it's dumb, but it's really because it's really designed for that. It's not designed to be a full-blown AI in the scope of, Chat, Grok, Gemini, Claude, and all those others.
Right.
There is a tool that you are talking about, Steve. It's called WhisperFlow, and this isn't an ad for this particular app, but I heard about it from the Diary of a CEO podcast because he uses it on his phone and on his computer, and it's all talk to AI, text and speech based, and he can talk to his phone. He can send emails. He can follow up with clients over emails, as well as also over text messages with like teammates. And you can tell it what you need it to do and then what messages you want to send. And you can just literally have a conversation with it, and it integrates into all of the apps on your phone, whether it be Android or Apple. And it also syncs to your computer, and it has a text box that pops up when you go into your messages. And so you can speak to text, but it will record all of those conversations. So in the future, if you're like, hey, I remember having a conversation with so-and-so about XYZ, it will search through all of your conversations and then say, you had this conversation with this person on this date, and here was their name. Do you need their contact info? And you can literally be like, yes. It will pull out the contact card, and then you're like, all right, send this to so-and-so on my team for them to connect with them. And it will do it all through just talking to your phone.
All right. So, yeah, I wrote that down. You should have told me at the end, because now I'm just going to be distracted wanting to look that up now while trying to get something done.
Yeah. Well, and it's the whole point of, like, Jerry, to your point of AI being so ever changing each and every day, the landscape of AI is already here, and it's already going to utilize and take so many quote unquote jobs away from just people that are doing the pencil pushing or the back end book working and the accounting work and the spreadsheets, because the AIs can do that now. It will now require people to think more like an entrepreneur, even if they're not an entrepreneur, because now they have to start figuring out how to utilize the AI compared to it taking everything from them and like hitting the keyboard and being like, AI is taking all of our jobs. It's like, well, it will take certain jobs, but at the same time, it will also elevate other jobs that were not ever around. Like now they have prompt engineers, which are being hired by Fortune 100 companies and even small businesses, because they need someone to know how to write this stuff to set up these automations, all within AI, for AI to do the heavy lifting. But you need to give it a direction. You need to give it a personal touch, a experience that's only from the lens of that small business or of that brand, and saying, hey, with these kind of things in mind, with this kind of tone and this kind of style, please complete these email responses for me with this kind of corresponding messaging compared to just data of just it putting out information, but feeling like it is AI because essentially everyone will be able to see that it's just an AI response. But now they're getting to the point where responses, if it's AI written, but it's guided and prompted correctly, you can't tell the difference if it's a message from you personally that you typed out or the AI, if it's prompted and guided in that correct light.
Yeah, I think it's certainly changing things. I haven't found that it writes. It's not very intuitive yet for me to let it do my writing for me. I'll let it do a bunch of writing, and then I'll go in and rewrite it. And anytime I let it write something for me, and even when I mark it up, and then if I post it, I go, I think you asked me about one a couple of weeks, Matt, and then I go out and read it again. I'm like, God damn it, that's what I get for trying. You still got to write your own stuff, but it does good work for getting you started for sure and giving you ideas. And I mean, it might cut down writing something significantly, something that you need to write of significance, not maybe an email in Steve's context, in Steve's example, an email that you just fire back at a customer real quick. Yeah, it's going to work great there. But something of some substance, you're going to write an article, you're going to write a newsletter, something along those lines. You're going to tell stories with it. I think that we still, I would encourage anybody to keep writing, because I've not seen it be there yet. But I've got on the docket something I've wanted to talk about the last couple of weeks. I had a conversation on a podcast a few weeks ago. I can't keep track of time, and the main subject of the podcast was children, and in particular, children for fathers in particular. And so I had pulled up some stats back then for that podcast that I want to talk about now. And the importance. Anybody that listens to me and listens to this podcast knows anything about the Kronos group or the Kronos Forge knows that I think that all men should have children at whatever age you are. Go now. So if you're 20 years old, go have children. If you're 35 years old or 40 years old and you don't have any, figure out how to have some. I think that is absolutely a critical part of life, a critical part of success, and a superpower that will get you there. And the statistics that I pulled up a few weeks ago bear that out. So I thought we'll just walk through some of these and then we can talk about them. But this is the effect of children that children have on fathers. This is studied and shown to be true. So I'll just go through a couple of these as an example. Fathers work more and earn more after having children. And the research consistently shows that men increase the work effort after becoming fathers. This comes from a study that the National Bureau of Economic Research did. They found that men's labor supply increases after becoming fathers, and fathers work about 5% more hours on average compared to men without children. And according to Stanford, a sociologist over there said men experience a fatherhood wage premium, and they earn about 6% more than men without children, controlling for other factors. So they earn more after becoming fathers. Why? Right? Why is that? Why do we think that is? So that was number one, and I'll open that up to you guys. But I find that fascinating that the research shows that men increase the work effort after becoming fathers.
Yeah, I think the natural desire is just, to provide. You have something beyond yourself. You're building something beyond yourself with that. And one thing, and I never really thought about what I was doing. Yeah, I haven't built $1 billion business. And a $1 billion business is going to be there. It'll be bought, sold. It'll be put into other hands. But it'll eventually die out. Somebody will reinvent it. Somebody else will do something with it. But being a father, and the 4 kids I have actually ensured that there's another generation on this planet. You have a business. The business could be there, but it could get dissolved, it could get absorbed, it could get turned into whatever and dissipate. But it doesn't future, the existence of our species here. And I have to admit, in my mind, it was just what I did is what was natural to do. But I never thought about the critical importance of it. Everybody talks about, what you want to build and what you want to build, but there's no sustainability to that. There's no future to that. Forget the fact that somebody will be at your funeral that cared about you and all that, and the experience it gets out of life. Now, I know I deviated off the subject, but it's been kind of, really reached a little bit of boiling point, not anger, but in understanding how valuable that is, and me not even recognizing that is an accomplishment. Go ahead and build $1 billion business. But I put 4 humans into the next generation to see that our species continues on this planet and do it well to where they contribute.
One of the, as we'll get to it, you jumped a couple of spots forward, Steve, but it's true, because legacy is one of the things that drive men also. So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
I just got to have children first. So, but I fully agree.
Well, here
the drive goes way beyond just yourself, like Steve said. And the more I've surrounded myself with people like you guys and other dads out there that are business owners or entrepreneurs or have built businesses, I continue to see that difference in them compared to someone that's like me or younger that is not married or doesn't have kids. And it's a tenacity that you can't just create. And I know, Jerry, one of the things you've told me many times after having conversations about having kids, and that is not going to be put off any longer. But one of those things was, you don't know the drive that you are capable of until you have kids. Because like, you think you're working hard now, wait until you have kids, and it's a whole nother gear that you never even tapped into because you've never had to push that hard to provide for someone outside of just yourself.
This is the fallacy of our society today. This is, again, the downplaying of the importance of men, the downplaying of fathers and the importance of fathers. But the effect that we know from studies, Matt, to your point, I just read you the studies that say that men work more when they become fathers. Now, if I asked you, Matt, you'd say, I'm busy as I can be. I'm burning it at both ends. I know you and I have conversations at midnight all the time, right? And you have a full-time job. Now I tell you, go have kids, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to, what you were doing, you're going to say, how easy was that? That mountain that I used to climb every day that seemed so onerous and so difficult is now tiny, because now I'm climbing the mountain for someone else. And so this mountain's not big enough because I can climb this for somebody else easily. And as soon as I figured that out, I'm like, well, this is the mountain that I spent all this time struggling on. And my eyes are open because I'm living with a purpose for something outside of myself. I'm going to the bigger mountain. And now you're doing twice as much work. But before that kid shows up, I could tell you that you're capable of so much more, and you look at me like I'm an idiot, which you've done in the years past, because you just didn't see it. It's all right. Your generation and the generation after you and the generation before you has been afflicted with this. Steve and I don't have that, which is you get out and you have children because they will make you do things you can't imagine. And the stats prove what you just said, and of course, what I've been saying all along.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the key there is you're doing it for somebody else.
Yes.
There's something built. We're built for that. And I think that's some of the unfulfillment that people don't like some things we've listened to recently of people that concur that trying to get fulfillment out of your business. And you just keep pushing. If you don't have children, you don't have a family, it's there. It'll never be quenched, because biologically we were built for something that's actually bigger than any business, even Elon Musk. And he would probably tell you, having kids, I think he's got 7, 8, 9,
11,
just
I think
11. Yeah. But he'll tell you that's the key. I don't think he'd be who he is if he was childless.
Dude, I don't have 4 baby mamas, but I'd take
Good
6
point.
or 7 kids in a heartbeat. If I could go back and do it again, I'd have 6 or 7 kids. Yeah, 100%. And I guess I get 2 wives, and then I could have 12 kids. But I don't know how many. But I think my wife we had 3, and she'd have had 3 more in a heartbeat. Let me get through a couple more of these. I knew this was going to be a good subject. 2, fathers become more future oriented. So the research they did is from the Journal of Marriage and Family. And what they found is that men with families, men with children, show greater long-term planning behavior. And the fathers report higher motivation for financial stability and career advancement. So this is all back, and Matt will kind of pick on you a little bit as an example here. The studies show all of these things that I have been preaching for years, which is that long-term planning behavior. Where's that come from? You say, well, I can long-term plan on my own. Yeah, but you never do, and you never do to the extent that you would when you have a kid. But that higher motivation for financial stability and career development, career advancement, you think, oh, well, I'm already doing that. I'm like, nuh-uh. No, wait till I put a firecracker under your butt and then see how you do. So the men's fatherhood, because fatherhood increases the way that we look at the future and the way that we view that time perspective. We start thinking in decades instead of months. Where's my kid going to go to middle school? Where's my kid going to go to high school? Right? Where's he going to go to college? If I don't get my work done now, if I don't start now, if I don't go out and slaughter now, what are they going to eat 10 years from now? And so all of a sudden you're looking at the world very differently. It's the second half of manhood.
And to that point, I was just thinking, when Matt and his brothers and sister was growing up, Matt, right now you pick a cool neighborhood that you and your wife like to live in, and maybe it's good to walk the dogs in. It just feels good. And I get that. But once you have kids, when we moved to where we did, it was like, to Jerry's point, exactly. This is where we want to live because it's safer for you kids. It's where the schools are we want to do. And it was a no-brainer. I didn't feel like I was compromising anything. It's what I had to do, but it did put me in a better place that I wouldn't do on mine without the kids. It put me in a lot better situation because of that, because I had an ulterior motive that wasn't even like, when you're working somewhere and your boss gives you a task and there's another task to do. It was something that was just automatic. And it is easier because you won't know until you experience it. There's just no way to explain it till you experience it. And then I'm not picking on you saying you don't know it, but any young men out there that are not married or, are married and don't have it, there's something that clicks in you that you don't even realize until you look back and realize the decisions you made, whether it's in career, where you're going to live, but it's based around your family. How do you provide for them the best? And It doesn't even feel like work. Right now, I guarantee I'd like to have this a year from now, and you're sitting there bouncing that little one, and we'll mark this March 19th. Or
two little ones in 2 years.
Well, let's do 1 year at a time. Let's get this in bite-sized
Come on, he has it in him, Steve-O. I know he can do it.
But as much as you think you're working now, you'll forget what this work is because you'll remember, it seemed like I was, but it becomes so much more natural. It's just what you do. It doesn't. So good. Life gets easier, even though people are like, well, I'm working so hard now. If I add this to it, it's just my plate. I won't have enough room on the plate. And what it does is it helps you organize that plate so much better. And then
you realize that your plate is that big. You realize your plate's that big, and you're capable of dealing with a plate this big. And you go, but I was busy when the plate was this big. And you're like, nah, now it's a giant plate. And you have so much more time and so much more effort or energy and so much more willing to sacrifice. And your mind is so much more open to everything that's coming at you. It really is an unimaginable change that cannot be faked. And it's not one that you can go out and buy, right? You can't get it with a dog. You can't do it with a nephew. You have to do it yourself. Number 3, fathers engage to your point, Steve, of how much change it does. Fathers engage in less risky behavior. A study published in the Journal of Health and Social Behavior found that fatherhood is associated with reduced criminal activity, reduced substance abuse, lower engagement in high-risk behaviors. And another study from Oxford found that men reduce risky behavior significantly after becoming fathers because responsibility alters identity. So responsibility actually stabilizes men. And this is one of the things that I have been saying all along is it changes who you are fundamentally as a man. You're living one day selfishly and for yourself, and that's fine. That's all there is you. But another day, all of a sudden, you're living for something else. And living for that something else changes who you are, the way you look at the world, the things that you want to do. This is why I struggle with influencers that, you know, have started businesses and they're super popular and they do all these things online, but they don't have children. Because I'm not really interested in how you created your multi-million-dollar business. I'm not interested in all of the things that you're doing and chasing and going after if you haven't done it with children. If you've done it with children, now you understand what really it takes to find what men want, the success that men want, which is healthy and happy children that they provide for in the context of them building something. So if you built a multi-million-dollar business or $100 million business and you've done very well for yourself and you're in your 40s, mazel tov. I'm happy for you. It's hard to do. Very few people can do it. Being an entrepreneur is very difficult. Now, if you tell me that you did that and you had 3 kids and they were born right in the middle of it, and you still had the wherewithal not only to raise those kids as good, fine, upstanding citizens who like you and want to be around you, but you also built that business, that's next level. That's a whole nother level. So the advice that non-children having people give you is lacking, you know, in the ability to do the things that you want to go do. And I never one time have I ever thought to myself that I never did something I didn't want to do when I had kids, because all I want to do is do things that involve my children. I don't know about you, Steve. I never missed going to a bar or watching a sporting event, because I'd rather go home, and if I was going to watch it, I want to watch it with them. But more importantly, I'm not going to watch a sporting event if it's not them playing in it, because I want to go to work, right, to make sure they have everything that I want them to have.
Yeah, and I can remember the first time that we went. I think the kids came out to your place out in Oregon when you were out there. And that was the first real time Kirsty and I went and did something. I think you got to be able to get away. We should have done more of that, even just for a night out to dinner and stuff, take a break. But where we really took a vacation, where it was just us, and how tough it was because it didn't involve the kids and they were still at home at the time. But it was, to your point exactly, everything was revolved around them. And even now there's always, Kirsty's really big about this, an open invitation. If you want to come, we're going to be here, but we know you have your own lives. But it's something that's built into you where you want to include them in everything you do. You just can't even imagine planning something that doesn't have them, which does lead into that legacy feeling, legacy of, if you're building something, legacy of shared experiences. And I think there might be part of it. We want to share it with people that when it's over, Matt, one day you'll be just, giving me a pour out over my grave one time on, just like, here's one for you, Dad. But you will have that shared experience of camping in Destin with an air conditioner and a tent that you'll pass on to your kids. Yeah. And it's something small, but it's something that'll live in the legacy of our family, I think, for a while. You won't believe what my dad came up with in July and put a little air conditioner out in a pop-up tent. We didn't have a lot of money, but we were able to go on vacation down there at that time. But I don't even think about the time, but you really want to build that thing that lives beyond you, whether it's in a business or it's just memories. And I think that's where subconsciously we don't even think about it, but there's that part of us. And I think that's the emptiness of people that, to Jerry's point, that builds businesses and builds all this stuff, but they don't have that legacy feeling. I think that's what maybe propels some of them to do it, is because they're still trying to find that fulfillment that can't be fulfilled biologically in our nature for what we want. And that is that survival, that legacy. And until we started really talking about this last year or so, it never even clicked with me as what it was. It was just built into my DNA once I became a father. But as I can step back and look at it, I realized that is a big driver. It's not meaning every time I have an experience, I think, oh, this will live on, but it's just woven into everything I do. Subconsciously, it's what it's for. So you'll pass that on. And I think that's a lot of it that gives that satisfaction in the life I live now, that me as a man will live on through my children and live on through shared experiences and memories, they have. Because that's the one thing, I think a lot of people don't. Now, it lasts for so long because, I don't know my great-great-grandfather, know about it, but I believe there's something that builds into that's just something we're seeking. And I think sometimes it's misplaced. into the things we're doing right now without it. And to Jerry's point, our plate, we find out that plate's that big, but we have this capacity. And you'll never know that capacity for a plate this big. Right now, you have a plate this big and you're like, okay, I'm right there. I'm just full. And it just creates a boundless ability to do that.
Yeah, it's I believe it's a shared experience is how life should be lived. And too many people will try to build their own career, build their own success, build their own story, get all of the cool cars, go on all the cool trips. But how many of those people are actually fulfilled? The reason that they keep wanting to get stuff is because they don't have that shared experience of another human being that can enjoy those things with them. And you can only go so far in life by building yourself up with not taking anyone else up with you. And it's shown throughout cultures. It's shown throughout like the military. Like military members are going out and fighting for our country. Why are they? Who are they fighting for? They're fighting for us. They're fighting for their families. And it's the same with like go back to the Roman civilization. They would go out and try to conquer new places because why? They did it for their country. They did it for their families and saying, "Hey, we don't want anyone else coming in here and disrupting it, so we're going to take charge." So there's this human concept of always evolving and leaving a legacy. The legacy of the US, the legacy of this family, the legacy of this individual. And if you're not able to have a family or have people around you that can share in those experiences, in the good and the bad, well, then who are you going to talk to about this stuff? Who are you going to share those experiences with?
And nobody, to your point, Matt, nobody throughout human history, nobody fights for their country. Nobody. You just, it's, there would be no countries, there would be no civilizations to the extent that we understand them throughout history. The galvanizing focal point for all of the men who ever went off to war, generally speaking, is their families, first and foremost. This idiotic war in Iran, right? I have one son in the military, another one is going in. And they don't want to, and I don't want them to, nor does anybody else. And I don't want to see any other Americans go off and fight a foreign war for a foreign country here over on the other side of the world. But my son is quick to say, if somebody's attacking his mother's, his mom and I are together, obviously. But if someone was attacking his mom's house, he'd lay his life down in a heartbeat. So those people fight for their countries because they have communities and families, right? And people who depend upon them. If they didn't have that, you wouldn't have anywhere near the kind of structure that we have. Family's critical for it. Let me give you some stats. Just a few. 1 in 4 kids in the United States grows up without a father in the home. When you look at the outcomes of those fatherless homes, the stats they're crazy. 85% of youth in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 63% of youth suicides come from fatherless homes. Kids without fathers are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. Girls without fathers are significantly more likely to experience teen pregnancy. So it is it's crime, education, mental health, stability. When fathers are missing, the outcomes change dramatically. And but the effect that has on fathers, because of the effect that fathers can have on their children, is a significant tool that should be used for everyone, particularly you young guys who don't have kids, to understand that this is the path to success. This is what will get you there. A couple more just off the back of those, and being a dad. A couple more stats that we can talk to because we're going to run out of time, but I want to get through a few more of these. Let me see where I was. Number 4. Number 5 is fathers report greater meaning in life. And it was funny when I did this research and I pulled all of this up because this is the stuff that, again, I continue to preach about. Greater meaning in life. I had no context for what greater meaning in life meant until I was 28 years old and my son was born. because now you're looking at the life, you're looking at the world through somebody else's eyes. And I had never had any context for that before. 85% of fathers say being a parent is the most meaningful part of their life. Another study published in the Social, Psychological, and Personality Science magazine found that parents report greater meaning and purpose than non-parents, even when reporting, and this is the important part, higher stress levels, right? Why is that? I think that is, I'll just real quick, why do they find more meaning and more purpose than non-parents, even when reporting higher stress levels? The higher stress levels are the reasons why people don't have kids, because of the stress it's going to put in the finances, and I'm going to be tired, and I'm going to be all the things, because nothing worth having is easy. Nothing of value is easy. So if it's given to you and you just have to take care of yourself, you're not going to find any purpose in that. There's no meaning in that whatsoever. Going and eating out every single weekend by yourselves, staring at each other, there's zero value in that. How do I know there's zero value in that? Because I have children. And when you add children, you now have two perspectives, the one of before kids and the one post kids. And the one post kids, I don't even recognize the person I was before. I didn't even recognize the things that I liked before, because all I wanted to do was load the kids in the car and go do something.
I wouldn't even get along with who I was before right now. I mean, I'd like them, but I wouldn't have anything, and it's me. But to your point, the transformation that happens when you do that, it'd be interesting to be able to dip back in time and meet you without them knowing it's you from the future, and see what it's like. And you think, God, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Among many other things, you know, even at that time, I thought I had it together for what I had going on, and I was king of the world. And there's also a humbling part too that comes along with being a father, and realize you're not all that. There's a lot you got to go out there and figure out. It has a way of, to your point, when you hold that child, that newborn, you know, you realize, to your point, you got to go out and provide now. And it's a whole different motivation for doing it. And it's so, if you think it's painful in the work and effort that you have to put forward now, when you have a child and you do it for that, you just have to experience to know how it's a totally different feeling. It's like, I don't, I have to now, but it's also a point I get to now.
Right. I get to. Yeah. Fatherhood improves mental stability for many men. Men with active father roles, I should say, report higher life satisfaction and identity stability. Fatherhood gives men a role that matters, which reduces that existential drift. And so when people need you, you behave differently. And again, no way to copy that. Fathers become more community oriented. The University of Chicago did the research. Fathers are more likely to participate in community activities. That goes without saying. I never participated in a community activity until my kids started playing sports. More likely to volunteer, more likely to engage in civic responsibility, because children connect men to schools and neighborhoods, and most importantly, back to Steve's point, to future generations. Marriage stability increase when men become fathers. Data from the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth found that men who become fathers within stable marriages are less likely to divorce compared to childless couples. Fatherhood increases shared responsibility and long-term alignment. And I think that is, Matt, you and I and Steve have talked about this multiple times about, quite frankly, I'm not sure what holds people together if you don't have children in the long term. Number 9, fathers report higher life satisfaction later in life. Longitudinal studies, again, from the Institute of Family Studies, show that fathers report greater life satisfaction in midlife and older age than men without children. Why? Because children provide intergenerational connection and legacy. There's that word again, legacy. Building something that outlives you matters. You don't think about it when you're younger, but when you get to be our age, Steve and I's age, all of a sudden you're thinking about it all of the time. Number 10, last one, fatherhood creates identity shift. Psychologists call this role transition theory. I could not agree. When I start finding these answers and finding these studies, and I was like, oh, it's everything I've ever talked about. Major life roles like fatherhood cause men to shift your identity from an individual to a provider, from a provider to a leader, and from a leader to a mentor. So having kids forces a man to stop living only for himself. And we know this because they've studied it.
Yeah. I've said this many times, just talking to people, talking to even my kids sometimes, is that I wouldn't be the man sitting here without my children. I wouldn't even know how incomplete of a man I'd be without that. And the thing is as you raise them and you rear them, you raise cattle, rear your children. Uh, you get more of especially if you do it successfully, you get a feedback. I learned from mine, but there's that imparting. Like today, I've talked to two of my sons. They're trying some new things, going in different things, and having, Aaron's doing the trucks. He sold 3 trucks this week now, and there's something in that they want to report back. For one thing, as a father, you become a standard. And then when you really recognize that, you start living differently, especially for, your children, is you realize you're a standard in somebody. So it makes it easier for you to maintain that and not want to drift that. Or if I didn't have that, what's the standard? A P&L sheet? What does a P&L sheet care about what you've done or not done? The employees getting paid and whether the business is successful. But in the deep part of you, and you lay in bed at night, you just think about your life. If you do that, what's the thing that's really bringing you the satisfaction, and pouring into something else that can return to you, and back to our legacy thing that lives beyond you. And there's something that, as much as I'm pouring out into, like today, I was talking to Jacob. He's got a couple job interviews. We're looking at where do you go? Some pretty, successful or look really good opportunities. Helping him plan. Okay, well, if you take this, where's this going to take you for the goals you have for what you want to do? It constantly sharpens my ability to be a better man, sharing that information with him. I have an outlet for that, having more wisdom, having more understanding of life. And it also helps me continually solidify the picture I'm creating for myself. One of the things they say, if you want to get good at something, you play it. If you want to get really good at something, coach it. Because when you coach it, you break it down from a lot different angle than when you were out there. And I think that's why you think about like good basketball players, why so few can coach. And the ones that do just seem like they have such a better grasp of the game when they're doing that, because maybe they played it and now they see it from another perspective. I think when you instill that into other human beings, especially your children, not necessarily your employees, but when you instill that into them, it just creates a person, a man that you are, that is able to help others, not even your own children. You're more beneficial in your conversations to other people. And I think it just makes you a better contributor to society as a whole, the whole social fabric that we exist in this world. You're a better contributor. You're a better cog in the wheel of our whole society. You're one of the ones that make things better for people. And you find out people that don't have really good fathers, and when you sharpen that sword with your own children, that it gives you the ability to help pour into other people as well. So as a whole, good fathers actually just help society be a stronger society as well.
I like it. Matt, what do you think?
I just gotta have
get
kids.
Out of here.
Gotta have kids. That's what it is. It's one of those things that it's good to hear all of these things, because to the whole point of this whole podcast so far, you don't know what you don't know until you have kids. And I'm excited for those next chapters, because it's not that I'm looking forward to any one particular thing. It's just to open my mind to so much more that I previously have no experience nor knowledge of those like new realms. And like you said, the plate's this big right now. When it gets this big, then it's like the pterodactyl beating the pterodactyl over the head coming out of the cave. Right now, I'm just going out for fun to hunt. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, I'll try something. If it doesn't work, oh, well, I'll go back to the cave and it's just me and my wife, but like I can take care of her. But then when you have other mouths to feed and other lives at stake that depend on you, well, now that raises the stakes of, I'm not going out hunting squirrels and rabbits anymore. I'm hunting pterodactyls because I got to feed a family. I got to provide for that much more. So now my risk in the terms of being able to think I can take on more dramatically increase. Right. Whereas when I was just by myself, it's like, oh, well, I just have myself and her to take care of, so I can manage with the small risk, knowing that I'll probably get a good return on my investment because it's a low risk. But if I want to go out there and go big, I know in order for me to go big, it's going to take a mindset and a level of risk that I've never been able to push myself to until I have kids.
Right.
Because then it's like, oh, I thought $1 million was a lot of money in business. And it is a lot of money for any business owner that makes $1 million. That's great. But now I'm like, dude, when I have kids, it's 100 million. It's 200 million. It's 300 million. And it's something that I don't even have a concept or any brain power to even compute $100 million right now. So right now, me pushing for $1 million is everything. It's like, whoa, that's awesome. But now when I have kids, dude, 1 million was chump change. It's like, now I know why certain people can elevate their business and their career and overall just experiences in life. Like Steve and I were talking earlier, the stories that we hear from someone like Jesse Itzler that has kids and the things that he learns from them still to this day, it's a new experience, and people want to hear that because they come to him for his business knowledge and all these other things within his career. But the stories he brings up of his son skiing down the hill and wiping out at the bottom is relatable because other people have kids and they know those moments. And it's like, whoa. And the things that he's learning about himself through experiences with his own kids.
Yeah. There's and we'll close out with this. I was going to say this, and we didn't have this conversation, so there's no way you would know this, but it's perfect dovetail. And I don't know Jesse Eitzler's story about his kids or any of that, but the one thing that I do see in a lot of parents these days, probably more out of the moms than I see the dads, but I see it all the time, in particular out of celebrities. And they talk about, how the kids taught you this and the kids taught you that. And the kids showed me this and the kids showed me that. Let me tell you, none of my kids ever taught me anything, right? When you have children, you learn about yourself. That means that the child is born, all of a sudden you want to go and support those. But in terms of the kid saying, yeah, Dad, I think you should turn left here instead of turning right, like they somehow give you some, and I know this, Jesse is relating an experience and what that experience means to him. There's the value, but there is this over feminized version of being a parent that says that, I've learned so much from, no. Children are to be seen and not heard, right? They're there for you to parent, to Steve's point, for you to rear, and you do that. But my kids, when they were little, never taught me anything, right? I taught them everything. I taught them not to cross the freeway and don't get hit by a car, right? They didn't teach me that. I taught them that. And there's this idea that somehow kids are our equals, and we're going to have them. I think part of this is because there's only so many people only have 1 or 2 children, and they're helicopter parenting, and they, there's not 3 or 4 boys beating the hell out of each other, and all of the things that really every healthy family needs. The parents we know that only have 1 or 2 kids, protect them like they're, little tiny pieces of china because you only have one. But by the time you get to 3 or 4, as Steve can attest to, really, at that point, Steve, it's like, just try not to ram each other's heads through the wall, right? Which is exactly a big difference from when you only have one and you're like, no, who's holding? Here, careful, take this. And you figure that out. So there is this disconnect between, new age, feminized, effeminate way of raising children and the way that certainly Steve raised his, and are all good kids. We all taught on a regular basis. I can say that probably exactly what most parents would hope they would get at this point in the journey. And it didn't come from, my children teaching me how to think about myself or any of the rest of this new age BS. So I'm always a little careful when I hear my kids taught me X, because my kids, I don't know, again, taught me to run out and go slay a dragon, but they didn't help me slay the dragon. They didn't say, Dad, if you swing that sword this way, you're going to slay the dragon. They didn't do any of that, right? I wanted to go do it because you want to provide for your family. So there's just this disconnect about the evening, right, of children and parents, and like you're on the same level. And that's kind of where the world's gotten. That's why you get so many of these kids that think they know everything and they don't know anything. I mean, that's the reality, is because they're indulged by their parents, made worse by 1 out of 4 children not having fathers, and the effect that has on the population at large. So I don't think that's what you're saying about Jesse Eitzler, but it's funny that you brought that up because I wanted to add that part to parents, that when you become parents, parent. It's not your friend, you're the parent. And you got to act like you're the parent and teach them, because I know a lot of parents who did not parent their kids. I know a lot of parents that were friends with their kids, and those kids are nightmares. And I have a perfect example, and then I'll shut up and we can get out of here. I have a friend who got pregnant at 16, and then her daughter got pregnant at 16, and then her daughter got pregnant at 15. Best friends, all of them. They're all great friends, right? All live right next to each other. And to this day, grandma at whatever that math is, 45, right? You're a grandma, or your great grandma at 45, great grandma at 45. Your grandma at 32, 32 plus 15, 42 is 47. You're a great grandmother at 47. Okay. That's what happens when you don't parent your children. But if you ask them, they're the greatest friends in the world, everybody's buddies. So.
Yeah. And there's going to be the person that says, well, 100 years ago, they were having kids at 16. I'd put up a 16, 18-year-old 100 years ago for their ability to understand life and how things work, compared to a 16-year-old today who plays and goes to school and has summers off and doesn't understand life at all. So that'd be the little caveat that I'd have to that. People say, well, life then is, that's why you had military leaders, you had top politicians, in that day when they were really doing stuff in their 20s and 30s, couldn't hold today's 30-year-olds couldn't hold a candle to the understanding, knowledge, and the life wisdom that life had back then. So let me just go ahead and dispel any of those comments about that, as far as what it is today, because today we let them stay children up through high school and on beyond. Whereas by the time you were 18, life was hard. You figured stuff out. You'd seen a brother and sister die. You'd seen a parent die young. You understood life, and it happened right there in the house. It didn't happen over in some hospice care or some hospital somewhere. That stuff happened right in front of you. So let me throw that out there for anybody who's going to say, well, it used to be, life was a lot different. We were a lot more ready for it at a lot earlier age. And now we have so much luxury, wisdom. Let me scratch that. Absolutely scratch that. Luxury and free time to play around. And so we don't get serious about life till a lot later in life now.
Right. Because in a lot of ways, because parents indulge their kids. But all right, take us out of here, Steve-O.
All right. We enjoyed having you here today. Hopefully learned something from this. This is valuable. Whether you realize or not, it will hit you one day how valuable this topic is today about being a father, being a parent, even as being a mom for women. What it does in your life and how it really equips you to be a better person, just having, children in your life as it relates to business, being a better business owner, being able to understand your business, grow it for something beyond yourself. And if you're looking to do that, you're looking to grow your business, come see us at the kronosgroup.org, thekronosgroup.org. Come visit us there. If you're kind of wanting to get in and just get around like-minded people, we have a school community called The Forge within the Kronos Group. Look us up there. Come visit us. Come see us. If you want to talk about this and you think, I want to be around people like this, I want to learn from some things like this, I need this in my life, then just come over, go to the webpage, thekronosgroup.org, click on there for a free phone call. Let's have a conversation, see if there's something we could do, get you in a cohort around other like-minded business owners, 1 to 25 million. Get in there, get in around the community of people like we're talking about a community here. Come over to let us help you. Come into the school community, into the Kronos Forge. Join there, get around other like-minded people, see what this is all about. Again, we appreciate you being here. Glad you joined us. And remember, opportunities everywhere, but you got to go get them.
We need to get one of those sound things, Matt. So when we say that, when he says the Forge, it'd be like the Kronos Forge. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, we need that. And then it echoes like when they do the truck, the Bigfoot trucks are coming,